And good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Talking to the head basketball coach of the Wabasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning.
All right, ready to kick her off. Talk some basketball.
A couple of games since we were last on. Well, let's go to the one that was the furthest away. That was the Whitko game at Whitko. Nice win for the Wabasee Warriors.
Yeah, it was. I think I've said it before, but anytime you look over there and you see a Hall of Fame, coach coaching a team, Coach Benedict's really good. He's been, feels like everywhere, Northeast Indiana, Valpo, and Columbia City, Bluffton, and now Whitko. He's a really good coach, and so I know they're going through some things over there and trying to develop their team, much like we are.
Well, everybody rides the cycle,
Yeah, so I was worried going into the game. We had Dukes hadn't been to practice in almost the entire week. He practiced probably 15 minutes on Friday to get ready for Saturday's game. So, and I know we'll talk about it a little bit later too, but we were in the same boat this week leading up to Warsaw. Guys just being out, so the flu bug is kind of going around our team. And so I was really proud of our guys. And, we get right before we leave, we're supposed to leave at 4:15, and there was a miscommunication on the bus schedule, and the bus was 35 minutes late.
Oh, my gosh.
So just a lot of things that I think we could have used as an excuse not to go over there and play well and pick up a victory, but we didn't. We didn't do that. So I think that speaks to the character of our team, and just was really proud that we went over there and we were ready to play.
Whitko, it just looked like a good, solid overall game length performance, which is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, and I know we were talking off air before we got started about and again I know we'll talk about Warsaw. It's kind of on my mind.
Is that a song? Warsaw on my mind.
It should be.
But we used the full 32 minutes last night, called a late timeout, but. We have to be consistent, through 32 minutes. And I thought we did that, especially defensively. People might watch Whitko against us and think what's wrong, or they didn't get the ball inside. They didn't do the things that maybe they have been doing. But I think we had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Our defense from one week to the next was much better, much better.
The consistency was quite striking. It's one of the things that comes last in high school basketball development is a 32-minute consistency, and you really had that at Whitko.
One of the things, Coach, I wanted to bring up was I interviewed Coach Benedict before the game, and he gave me the keys, and I can't remember what they were. And he said,
shut down the outside shooters.
Yeah, something like, right. Anyhow, that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was, like I said, Coach, you've got 479 victories. I said, what do you think about that? His comment was, quote, I hope we get one more tonight, unquote. And I thought that was really apropos.
Yeah, it is. When you get to that level, you're just thinking about one game, and what do we have to do tonight? What do I have to do to prepare my team, to get that victory this time? And what the past experiences, that the past wins, I'm sure doesn't mean a whole lot to him until maybe later after he retires and all that stuff. But he just wanted to win that night, and so did we.
Big night at Whitko, and then we go to Warsaw last night. Always a tough place to play. Wabasee hasn't won there in years, and part of that has to do with the fact that they're 8 times our size now. And I kid you not, that's not just me making up a number. They actually are 8 times our size. But last night you went over there and you stayed with them through. Didn't exactly stay with them. You stayed within range of them.
Yes.
For 3/4 of the game, and then it kind of got away from you.
Yeah, they're a good basketball team. There's no question about that. We show up on time. For the shoot around before the JV game, and our varsity guys go out. We basically have 7 players in our rotation. The rest of them play JV. The 7 guys. I was out there. The 7 guys walk onto the floor, and you look down on the other end, and I think there were like 25 guys. There are 25 guys. It looked like a football team down there warming up.
Well, they've got 14 right now on their varsity bench.
Yeah.
And only 2 of them come up from the JV. The other 12 are varsity only. And don't you think that's a luxury, though, that comes with being that size of a school?
Yes, it is, because like I said, we roll out our 7 guys out on the floor to get warmed up and kind of go through our routines. And you look down there and honestly, their JV team and into their freshman team that played here on Thursday night, they're just incredibly deep,
Yes.
with athletes. And so I honestly believe this. I think we're just as skilled, our top 5 against their top
Yes.
5. We turned the ball over a little bit. We can talk about specifics, but we did hang in there. We competed with them, and the pregame speech was, look, you can't play 25 guys on the court at the exact same time in a high school basketball game. Football depth. I talk about football like I know what I'm talking about, but it seems to make sense in my mind. On the football, you got 11 offensive guys, you got 11 defensive guys, and then you have special team guys.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine if I was a football coach that having big numbers in the program is super important. You get guys rest and they play specific positions, and you teach them how to play positions.
And if you don't, the other side does, and eventually they wear out.
Yeah. Basketball is a little different. You can play with 5, 6, 7 guys in a rotation, and you can compete at a really high level. And so it is a luxury to have the depth that they have in their program, and they do a good job developing that depth. But you only play 5 guys, and so 5 guys walked onto the floor, and for them and for us, and it was a ball game, I think, all night.
It was unusual. I just want to add this,
Okay.
Coach. It was unusual last night. Usually when we go play a Warsaw, or for that matter a Goshen, which has a lot more kids, usually just by the fact that they've got so many to choose from, they've either got a couple of super fast sprinters, or they got a couple of 6'7", 6'8" kids.
Yeah.
Or both.
Oh, yeah.
Physically, I think our matchup with Warsaw last night was as good as it's been in years. They looked like us when you put 5 on the floor at a time. Which struck me. We had our best chance maybe for a while last night, but their basketball skills, the Gould kid is unbelievable.
Oh, my.
Yeah. He may not be the biggest or the fastest, but he uses everything he's got. He's got talent.
And sometimes you have a good night. You and I, sometimes
31 points.
Yeah,
I mean,
he had not had that many points before. So he was on fire last night. And, Coach, you brought up one other thing. I want to bring up the fact we moved up here in 77, and the idea was to stay here 5 years and move back to Indy, because you can always find a job in Indianapolis Public Schools somewhere. And I was thinking, well, all those schools are like over 2,000, 3,000 kids, high schools. And I'm thinking, Wawasee at that time was just about 1,000. And I'm thinking, what are your chances? And how important it was for me to get my kids to play athletics, and you too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, if we move back, the chance and go to North Central, which was where we were going to live.
The junior college of Central Indiana.
Right. Our kids probably will get cut. They won't get to play. And the experience I've had here with my own kids and with the other kids, and people do not realize what a great population this school district has, and Wawasee has it on its own.
Yeah. I mean, you can include, it's a community, and I think
Yes.
it's a community of educators, certainly a community of students, but, even outside that, the support that we get just within the basketball program, I could speak on that. It's a cool place to live. It really is.
It really is.
You do get opportunities maybe that you wouldn't get at, some of the bigger schools, and you look at our bench guys or maybe our JV guys and even some varsity guys. What I said last night, I wouldn't trade my team for their team. I really wouldn't. I'm the head coach at Wawasee, but the fact is that they got JV players that probably would be. They probably got 4 or 5 JV players that would be in our top, 8 players, and so, I think you're exactly right. We do have guys that are getting opportunities, and they're making the most of it.
Yeah, and it's fun because they get to play, they will work hard, and it really develops them all to be great people later on.
There's a certain sweet spot
Yes.
in community size where you get the maximum of opportunity with the maximum of community support. And if you get bigger, you lose one, and if you get smaller, then you don't have the critical mass to put together. Like Hamilton last night losing to Fairfield, 76-20. I mean, they just don't have the critical mass to compete. So there's a certain sweet spot, and I think, Caz, what you're saying is we're in that sweet spot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're in the sweet spot. And you go and look at, I love to walk down and look at the pictures on the wall and all the kids that are going here and going there. And it's just really great. This is a great place to be.
Yeah. And we got some guys that I had a player that I coached at DeKalb come to the game last night.
Oh, my gosh.
I saw Ben Hoffert there, and Cameron Salazar's been hanging out, and Ethan Hardy is out in California with his basic training.
Out there at
and
29 Palms, isn't he?
Yeah. So I text him almost, on a weekly, daily type basis. And so it's always cool to see that back. But that is the community feel that I think we have here. And I will tell you this, that, like when coaches go into the coaching profession and they be their assistant coach, they have these dream jobs,
Yes.
places where they want to go, and like, man, my dream job is here.
I can relate to that back in the day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Dream jobs are becoming 3A jobs just like Wawasee, and the reason is because the atmosphere, the size of the gym, and the size of the school. You really like, as a young coach, they're seeking out these types of jobs because of the community feel. You go to a bigger community, and nothing against Warsaw, but their gym is so large.
Well, it's got its positive aspects, but it's just not the same thing.
I can't think of anything, Bill. Give me a positive aspect of Warsaw.
I'm sure it
just
does.
One, Bill.
It's Warsaw, so I might be a little biased. So
I'm gonna text Henry Smith.
Are you?
Yeah,
think I need to reload, do you?
And give him that comment you just made.
Probably won't live to see tomorrow.
Absolutely. Oh my!
But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's, you get bigger and you lose one end, you get smaller, you lose the other end.
Right.
3A has got that balance.
It certainly does, and we have a good following. We have good thing going on right now here, and it traditionally has been like that at Wawasee. And I think, in all honesty, we our family, Carly and I, were searching around. I had opportunities at other places, 6-7 years ago, and certainly we're taking a look at those opportunities, and this is where we wanted to be, and I think a lot of it had to do with community, and coming here and having the experiences that we're having right now were what we were seeking out. And I think there's other people too. There's I've said this before on the show, that there's other people recognizing what's going on here, and they're coming here,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a pretty cool thing.
So at Warsaw last night, just to wrap up the Warsaw game.
Okay.
What are the one or two things that you learned last night at Warsaw?
Well, look, they're extremely physically tough. We actually attacked them just enough to get them into foul trouble.
Yeah,
the fouls were a little lopsided.
In
And
the second half especially.
Yeah.
if we wouldn't have handled their pressure like we did, if you kind of back off and you play passive, then they don't call fouls, and we had too many turnovers. But there was a lot of really good things that happened in there. We got them into foul trouble because we were not afraid, and
Yes.
and we attacked them. And so now we need to do a better job of learning what to do when we attack and not turning the ball over in that. But the start of that is we weren't afraid going into that game. We certainly weren't intimidated. We weren't afraid. We believed that we could win. And I think you're seeing, the like each step of the way, you're saying, I think we can do it. I think we're pretty good, and so the kids are starting to believe in themselves and the things that we can do. And so we are learning a lot. That was a great question. We are learning a lot about who we are and who we can become.
When we come back, more with Coach Jon Everingham on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Talking to the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, you've got quite a cast this year helping you, and kids that are playing on the varsity. You got a real big mix, but it's got to start with your seniors. They got to bring a lot of leadership to the floor, and one of those guys is Keaton Dukes.
Yeah, I look forward to I told Keaton that, after we get through this little hiccup that we're having with the flu and all that stuff, I really look forward to having him come in and talk to you guys on the radio and do an interview with him. He's done that before, and he's done such a good job. But he means a lot to our program. there's certainly no question about that, and he's doing an amazing job. I mean, his leadership qualities in the locker room and communication abilities with other players and with the coaching staff, and he's done a fabulous job, with that. I could not ask for more from him and what he gives kind of off the floor. And so I'm really proud of him too, because, he was that skinny little freshman, and
Sure.
When he first started, and I know he looked up to players when he was coming through the middle school, and he's put a lot of time and effort into being, the player he is today. And I'll meet with him today just a little bit prior to practice, because he is struggling just a little bit. But, I woke up this morning thinking about him, and just kind of a smile popped on my face, because I'm thinking it's okay,
Yeah.
and so we all have struggles in life, and we have to figure it out, and I think, that's, high school athletics gives me an opportunity, and the coaching staff an opportunity, to kind of have that platform to say, hey, look, it's okay. Going through struggles is okay. And you just got to find a way to get through it and to make it a positive.
How huge a part of life is that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you learn every day in practice, and every day in a game. And you and I were talking about this, what they take away even from a loss at Warsaw. I mean, these kids are learning all the time, especially your seniors.
What kind of leader is Keaton?
Yeah, I mean, his communication skills are incredible. And I will tell you this too, and I talk to and communicate with parents, and just talking to his mom, a little bit too, but just I was communicating with her that he's got a way about himself that he communicates well with all people. And so it's not uncommon for him to be walking down the hallways here at Wawasee with maybe a special education student. It's not uncommon for him to be walking down the hallways with the star quarterback or the star wrestler or whatever. And so his ability to communicate with a wide range of people is just, it's actually inspiring, when you really think about it. A kid like him that has every opportunity to kind of be the big dog and act like the big dog and I'm better than everybody else type attitude. He just doesn't have that. And that's carried over to our locker room too, where we have players from all walks of life and all different grades, in the locker room. And it really is that again, this morning I woke up just thinking I was just really inspired by who he is and what he's doing. I know he's struggling on the floor right now. And again, it just kind of like this calmness came over me. Like, it's okay. It's okay. This is a part of life. This is a part of what everyone goes through. And you just got to find a way to fight through it and get to the other side. And so that's going to be my message to him today. And I know he's going to do it. He's done it before. He struggled last year a little bit through some games, and it may not be next week. But we're going to find the old Keaton Dukes coming through on the floor. Now off the floor, he's been awesome.
A player that's really been coming around for you a lot lately and had a big night last night, Kaden Weldy.
Yeah. He's, again, I just can't say enough about the seniors in general, but, Welty, he's all in. When I think of Welty, he's just all in, full force, right in your face and just going to come right at you. And last night, and again, just to be open and honest, he had 8 turnovers, and that's, unacceptable from a senior guard. But, the theme kind of leading into Warsaw was we're not going to back down. And so there's a risk involved with that. And so when you put yourself out there and you're like, we're going to attack, and you got to make these, passes and these plays, there's the risk of failure, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that dude has just got nothing in him other than just thinking, I'm going to attack and I'm going to be all in and I'm going to be able to live with the results and not have a bad attitude. And so I think that was on display last night.
One of the things I really liked about Weldy is even though he made a mistake, he would come. He wouldn't exacerbate over it or get really. Oh man, he would go right back.
Yeah.
Like he. It's just immediate back into the hardness of the game.
Yep. And that's mental toughness.
Right. I couldn't say it wouldn't come to me.
It
exactly.
Really is. That there's a toughness involved in that people just don't understand. And you got the students down there, and you're on the road, and you got family in the crowd. There's a lot of pressure on these boys out there on the floor to perform. And when you don't when you fail out there and you don't perform, it's very easy to get down on yourself and to kind of lose confidence in what you're doing. What you have to do is to be able to move on to the next play. And not really think about, well, that wasn't a very good play, and maybe coach is upset. Maybe grandma's up in the stands is going to be disappointed. I mean, it's hard not to think about those things. And he again is setting an example for our younger guys that that's how you do it right there. He didn't play an awesome floor game. He didn't play an awesome floor game, but he did a lot of other things really, really well. You know, he got his hands on a lot of balls. He came to me at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, and he was offering advice to me on what defense we should be playing, and can we go into this, and can we do this? And I was like, I actually hadn't thought of it, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. That guy's doing this, so we need to do this, and so that's senior leadership right there. When a guy feels comfortable enough to come over and say, Coach, come on, man, you know, I think this is going to work for us, and I'm like, yes. You know, let's do that. And certainly the coaches and I talk over there. But when you got a floor leader like that, you know, coming over that's totally into the game, you know, he's thinking through exactly what the coach is kind of thinking through. That's going to come back, and it's going to pay dividends in the long run for us.
While all those guards are orbiting around the outside, the man down in the nucleus, down at the block, Colin Robertson.
Yeah, how cool is that guy? I mean, he's that smile that comes across his face is just electric. And I love to see him having fun. I love to see him excited. He's just kind of a fun-loving, you know, kid. And you know, we asked him to change his game a little bit a couple weeks ago. He wasn't playing real well, and he was in a kind of a bad spot. What I told him, I had a whole whiteboard list of things that I thought, you know, for him would get him back on track. Look, it's hard, you know, for a, 16, 17-year-old kid. He's a year behind his grade, by the way, age-wise. And so he's still developing everything. His brain and his body and everything is still developing. But, you know, for him to sit there and think, you know, well, I don't know about this coach, but I'm just going to play the way I play, you know, has to be floating around in his head somewhere. And yet that dude, he says, I'm in. You know, coach says this is what I need to do to help the team without hesitation. You know, he says, I'm in. I can do those things, and I'm going to do them to the best of my ability. And that was prior to the Whitko game. And so he comes out 6 points, 11 rebounds in the Whitko game. Last night he was our leading scorer, I think, at 10 points. And just really proud of him because it could have went either way. You know, sometimes you suggest things to players and they're just like, I don't know, I'm going to do it my way. And it's going to take, 8, 9 guys kind of with that type of attitude. And again, I think other players are seeing these guys say, yes, you know, I'm all in, coach. I trust the coach, and this is what's going to make us successful. And Colin certainly has been a guy that we've leaned on in the locker room to say, hey, look, this is what we asked him to do. He's going out there and doing his job to the best of his ability and played a nice game last night.
Yeah, he really did. I was watching, you and I were both watching him inside, and he did a great job on the defensive boards. I don't have the stats here, but he would screen out and use his height and his size. And, he got a lot of rebounds, but it was great watching him play inside while Bill was calling the game.
Yeah.
So, in addition to those three, you've got a couple freshman guards out there orbiting around the outside, one of them being Maddox Everingham.
Yeah, Maddox is off to a good start this year, and I know we'll talk about his brother just a little bit, but, people don't understand how difficult it is to come in from middle school basketball. And I was with him and his brother, watching our 8th grade play, and I looked over and I kind of winked at him. I said, what do you think? And he goes, this game looks slow. Mm-hmm. And he goes, was it like this last year when we were playing? And I said, yes. If you go from the 8th grade game where there's basically no physicality, the speed is super slow, but you don't realize it as an 8th grader. It just seems normal to go to the Tiger's Den basically and just get punched in the face, literally.
Yeah.
So he's doing an amazing job, and he's an exceptional shooter.
He
is.
And
when he starts figuring out time and space, when a good shot occurs and how much time and space he has and when to use that shot fake and then drive, his ceiling is pretty high. Again, he scored 10 points last night. He hit 6 threes against Fairfield. You're going to see continuous improvement from him, moving forward. And defensively, he's hanging in there as well.
And then the other freshman guard, Miles Everingham, they're twins. How do you see them differently on the floor? How do you contrast the two of them?
Two different players, two different personalities, honestly, but Miles is really kind of is moving into our point guard position, and so he's handling the ball a lot. Last night, in every game, really, he's done a good job of taking care of the basketball. Last night against that pressure, to have only 2 turnovers as a freshman, playing against, by the way, their best defender, number 11, bodying him up. And again, at one point he comes over to me and said, they hit me in the face.
Yeah, he did. You had timeout because of that.
Yeah, he says, so I'm laughing because I turned to number 11, and generally coaches don't talk to other players on the floor, but I said, you better toughen up. This is NLC basketball, right? And I went like this to number 11. He goes, exactly. So we had a nice exchange there. I thought it was really funny. But, Miles is learning, the pressure of playing in an NLC game and in a varsity game. And he's handling that pressure, really well. He's taking care of the basketball, understands our offense. And then, in all honesty, he's guarding the other team's best player. Last night he guarded Gould for about a half, and I thought energy-wise, we got to switch him off, but anyway, he's doing a fine job, and he also has a bright future, and he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better as we move forward.
So then you've got a couple of big guys coming off the bench for you. First of all, we've got Finlinson.
Yeah, Jay is a kid that. Has been our surprise guy. Every year you got the surprise guy, the guy that you don't think maybe is going to sneak in there, but he does. And we've asked him to do some things that will get him on the floor. Like I give him a list of things like, hey, if you want to do it, here's the list. Here's what you have to be able to do in order to get out there. And so he took that list and he checked off all of them fairly quickly. And we're like, okay, well, you did it. Now get out there and do it. And his ability to really understand our offense has probably been one of the biggest keys. And it's surprisingly enough, his toughness on the inside and getting some big rebounds and getting some guys some rest and I think has been very impressive. You'll see him more and more start entering a game more and more. Played 2 quarters JV for the first 2 or 3 games, and then we've kind of moved him to full-time varsity, and he's doing a heck of a job. And I know we got at least 1 or 2 more to talk about on that varsity, and so I look
Let's
forward to
do
doing
that when we come back here in just a minute on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Talking to the head basketball coach of the Wabasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, we've covered just about everybody in the rotation for the varsity team. We just ran out of a little bit of time to get Mr. Felger covered.
Yeah, Peyton Felger, he's one of the guys that he got the flu.
I had him in math class. He's a math whiz.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, real smart.
Great kid. He's really soft-spoken and quiet, but not on the floor. Honestly,
Really?
he just he's a warrior, on the floor. But he was one that was bit by the flu bug, after the Whitko game, and then he kind of gets over the flu. As a matter of fact, wasn't at the Whitko game, and so it was right before the Whitko game. Didn't get a chance to participate. Then I'm not joking. He gets a call from the school, he texted me and said, I need one more day, Monday, and I think I'll be back on Tuesday for practice. And he got a call from the school that he was close contacted for COVID. Somebody who had COVID at the school. And I said, when did you get close contacted? He said, Thursday. I said, you weren't at school Thursday? And he goes, yeah, I was there for 1 hour. He went to first hour on Thursday, sat next to somebody with COVID and got the COVID protocols.
Yeah.
And missed the whole week of practice. And so you didn't see him on the floor a whole lot last night. His conditioning is not there. He's been out.
Well, the ankle injury, he was out for a year with the ankle.
Yeah, he's motocross, guy that's got no fear, probably jumping 20 feet in the air with these bikes. And
you need control over their summer activity schedule. I'm telling you, Coach. Motocross with a basketball player in Indiana?
Yeah.
What?
We got other guys that are professional ski-doo. I'm sorry.
What?
What are those things called?
Yeah, a
water jet thing.
They travel all over the nation. The Finlandsons travel over the nation to go real fast on water. And every time they go, I said, you guys just be careful. Because
and when you're a kid, you don't realize that, do you?
No,
I mean that does never cross your mind.
Yeah, but I tell you from their experiences, with Peyton and his experiences, they do play with no fear. They
do,
and they go out there, they get right in your face, and Peyton, his defensive positioning is probably one of his best qualities, is the understanding where to be on defense. And last night he was in position. I know they made another call right before he took a charge last night, but he's one of our best charge guys, and he plays physical, in-your-face defense, and certainly brings an energy off the bench that we really need. And we missed. We didn't have him at the Whitko game, and basically didn't have him last night, at the Warsaw game. And so when you're already 7-guy rotation and you lose one, it makes it pretty difficult. I don't know how many minutes he played last night, but I bet it was only about 3 or 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he hadn't practiced for over a week, probably 10 days or whatever. But so we're looking forward to getting him back in that rotation, getting him some conditioning maybe today and Monday, so he can get back in that rotation on Tuesday, Wednesday, because he also provides some rest, for some other guys that are playing 32 minutes a game. So it's really important that we get him back and healthy. And you can see even in the West Noble game, he knocked down a couple threes in the West Noble game, and so he's got some ability too. And people are going to have to kind of keep an eye on him so he doesn't hurt you. So we like our top 7 guys, and I appreciate the opportunity to get a chance to talk about all those guys.
7 guys who do a great job playing together as a single unit. And that was, I thought, what do I know? I know nothing. But I thought that was really the key for last night, and you're hanging around in that game. They played as a unit, not like 5 individuals.
Yeah, and the thing is, we made mistakes. We actually made a lot of mistakes, and we were still able to hang around against a very good basketball team. And so what I talked to him after the game was, look, the mistakes that we're making are fixable. I've coached teams in the past here, and I've coached teams in the past at other schools that, we just didn't have the ability. Like, you want to ask somebody to do something they're not capable of doing to try to make us better. Well, you can't do that. They're not capable of doing better. They just don't have the talent or skill to be able to be better. We have the talent. We have the skill. Some of the mistakes that we're making are fixable. And so I think when we start fixing, and cleaning up some of those things, you're going to see us get better and better. And so it's pretty exciting. I wish it happened, sooner than later. And I think it has potential to do that maybe around the holiday tournament. But these next couple games are going to be pretty difficult.
One of the things I really like watching you guys is on the bench. Yeah. When they are they're focused on the bench. And then when you put somebody else in, or when you have those timeouts, the intensity of everybody. I mean, nobody's like, oh, I'm looking in the stands and looking for my grandma. Like, they are focused on what you and O'Connell are saying all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's a learned trait. I don't know if it's the correct way to say it, but those are things you have to coach. Like, a coach not only is teaching X's and O's on the floor, but you're also trying to explain to the whole program and the whole team how important it is to be engaged on the bench, and so how important it is to be engaged during film sessions, even though your face is not out there. Like, you're thinking, what would I do in this situation? If I was in there, I'd be playing this position. I'm seeing somebody make a mistake or a good move. I think I can do that too. I'm going to go try it in practice today, and so it is kind of a all program effort, from freshman all the way up through senior, and certainly I think we're moving in the right direction on there. But it is a learned trait, and it does take some coaching.
And these kids then are able to take that coaching and those traits and move them to the classroom and move them to other areas in life, and that's what it's really about. I mean, you're not going to have NBA players very often. Maybe one in a career, maybe 2, maybe. But the whole thing is for them to take these traits and be able to move them into life.
Well, you guys know you've been in education and
Couple
certainly
years.
A couple years. We talked, Caz,
46 years.
46 years is incredible. But you have those students that come back.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they remember things that are really you're like, I wasn't really thinking that you'd remember that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So
It's a great profession, isn't it?
yeah, I like I said earlier, I had a player from DeKalb come with his family, his entire family. His mom and dad came, last night, and certainly I kept glancing back there at him, and certainly very proud, that I have relationships with players that have graduated and come back and talk. But some of the stories that they tell and the memories that they have from their experience in high school athletics is something you're proud of. You sit back and be like, that's pretty cool. So.
One of the other things that's really interesting, too, is the money that a lot of these kids will get for scholarships at the next level. I know all four of my kids got not full scholarship, but they got, help in their schooling, and they played for some time in college sports. Well, how big is that? I mean, that's so neat that this is
it's a pathway.
Thank you, Bill. My brain privilege doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But anyhow, you're right. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And one other thing, I was talked to Duke's dad, and I'm trying to get to where he wants to go. But evidently, that's got to be a really neat thing because I know he's being
secret locked in the vault at Fort Knox.
Right. That's got to be a neat thing for you guys to work with.
Yeah, I am working with him, and it is going to be interesting to see where he ends up. I think he'd like to play, at the next level. But, what I told him, we put some work in. He's put some work in. His family's put some work into where he's going to go. But we've kind of pushed pause on that. And trying to get him to really enjoy, his senior year as much as he can. But there's opportunities out there for guys to get scholarships or to move on to the next level, and certainly that's important. And the pressure on some of these guys to perform at a high level is also incredible. And so you got to kind of temper some of that a little bit. But one thing that you had said just a second ago, carrying over to the classroom. I want you guys to remind me, because I hold me accountable for this, but I need to get you guys are team GPA. And so I talk about all these guys and what they do on the floor. They're just as good in the classroom.
Isn't that neat?
And so they do take those things. And I think that speaks volumes to their families and the way they were raised. And certainly I play a very small part in that because they're good students and they're good kids.
Well, they've already developed considerably in those aspects before they get to you.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of ingrained in who they are. And so, we talk about the culture of our program. We're looking for the right types of kids to play the game, for us. And we have them right now. And so these guys perform in the classroom. They also perform, inside of the school in terms of, not getting in trouble and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so they're not perfect, but they're good kids and they're fun to work with. And just remind me, I need to get you our team GPA because I think it's pretty impressive.
A lot of them do community service too. I mean, they're into that, and which is such a good thing to give back.
Yep.
That idea of being a good giving back person, I think, is huge. And I think sports develop that.
Absolutely.
It's part of the thing. Okay, we're going to go nursing home this week. We're going to go here this week, or do a fund drive for some of this stuff. Yep. It's just a huge opportunity.
Yep. Our athletic director, Brent Doty, actually instilled one thing that I think is a great thing for the community and our athletic programs, that each program is required now to give back to the community through community service. And so it really is a feel-good type thing, and it feels good to give back. And we do several of those, throughout the summer and through the holidays. And it's certainly something you also want to teach, kids that this is important to do when you live in a community like we live in.
The other thing you realize, too, is when you do that, how lucky you are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's just a tremendous feeling. Gee whiz, I don't have this kind of bad, not this kind of bad thing that's happening to me, and I can go out and help this person. It's just such a good learning life experience.
Absolutely, 100%. That's what it's all about.
One of the ways that your kids reach out and one of the ways that your kids do extra stuff is by helping those younger people who are coming through your
Junior Warrior.
I couldn't think of the first word. Junior Warrior program. Talk about the impact that your kids have, the varsity kids have, on those younger people, and then talk a little bit about how those varsity kids, the impact they get back from those young people, because I think that may be the biggest difference going on right now between what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing now.
Yeah, it does kind of come full circle. You know, you're hoping to build a program where these little kids are looking up to the older kids, and then when they become older kids, they realize these kids are really, I have influence over this group of kids. So this is no joke. It's funny we're talking about this today because I was with somebody last night after the game, and talking to them, and what they told me was the most impressive thing about your program is how you involve youth in your program. And so we got the ball boy program that Coach Hetrick does an amazing job with.
That's young people coming up at to the high school gym and interacting with the officials and like that.
Yeah, and so they rebound the ball, and we've had several of our kindergarten first graders that do the ball boy stuff. And so you try to put as many things in place to make your program fun and cool for young kids, and they play the game, and they look up to the guys at the high school level. The high school guys are making good choices and doing good things, and community service, and on the floor, off the floor, getting good grades. Those are the examples that we want for our younger guys. And so when my kids were younger, they certainly looked up to well, honestly, Keaton Dukes and Cameron Salazar, Ethan Carey, Ethan Hardy, and all those guys that kind of came through, and now they're getting a chance. You don't quite realize that you have that impact on young kids, but I had one of our youth league players say, "Are the twins going to be there?"
Oh, how neat!
And I said, "Yeah, they'll be there," and they're like, "Yes." So they're having troubles transitioning from looking up to others, and now these little kids are looking up to them. So it's a really cool thing we got going within the Wawasee basketball program.
Back with more in just a moment here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com.
You're so good.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. As Coach Caz Szynal and I welcome Coach Hoffert to our microphones. Coach Hoffert is the junior varsity coach here at Wawasee High School. Coach Hoffert, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk a little bit about the difference between coaching junior varsity and coaching varsity basketball.
Well, the junior varsity team is, in a way, an extension of the varsity team. And so we do the majority of our practices and our drills and stuff. We do them together. And so there's certain times in practice where the JV is all the guys in the practice are working together, and then there's times when they're split up. So it sort of depends on the week, how many days. If we have a full week, it might look a little bit different. If we only have coming up here, we only have 1 or 2 days in between games, then it might look a little bit differently there. So yeah, it's a kind of a it's kind of a challenge in terms of taking care of things that the junior varsity guys need to address in terms of what happened in their games and so forth, and then also being there to help the varsity prepare for their game.
So part of your job then is to sort of be the practice squad, to be the guys that the varsity can practice against. So you have to mirror what the other guys do.
Correct. So there are sometimes leading up to a game where Coach Everingham will say, "Hey, we kind of want the guys to do this or that in terms of a defense or an offense," and then we'll try to simulate that as best we can.
Coach, how many people do you have coming out for JV? And one of the hardest things I always had was making decisions on whether or not some kids were going to make the team and some kids were not. Is that sometimes that's not even a problem because you don't have that many kids coming out. What's and then you got the freshmen that you got to watch because they're going to be playing JV next year. That's a lot of time you got to spend on that.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in today's age than it used to be because in the olden days
I
that
can
would be
relate
back
to
when
that.
Caz was there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I rode my dinosaur to school.
they were very they were very. I mean, there are still strict cutoff dates and startup dates and so forth, but they've really opened things up. So players have access to the coaches, and the coaches have access to the players a lot more through the
it's not as
through the
chunky.
spring, summer, and fall. Yeah, so like the days of all right, this is day one of tryouts and 30 or 40 guys show up and you weren't sure who was going to be there. That's not exactly the way it is anymore because you kind of throughout the fall you get to basically have 2 workouts a week and
Wow.
and if you're not in a fall sport, the players are coming and those types of things. So it's sort of it just sort of you just sort of know who the team is going to be a little bit beforehand. So then it's just a matter of figuring out what the best way to utilize the resources of the players in terms of who's going to play on which team, varsity, JV, or freshman or whatever.
How do you divide up the time then? Because part of your time has got to be spent individually, developmentally. Part of your time has got to be spent gelling a junior varsity unit, and then a considerable part of the time has got to be spent making the varsity better.
Correct. So at the beginning of the year, we have to spend a lot of time just making sure that we have our structure in, that we can respond to certain situations in the game. And we're still a little bit in that phase as the JV. So we're always going to be a little bit behind, the varsity on that. Because, as guys come up from the freshmen, they haven't really been part of the JV and varsity system, even though the freshmen run a lot of the same stuff. It's not exactly the same. There's different variations and different levels to some of the things that we do offensively and defensively. So we're still a little bit in the process of putting in our structure. And then once you have in the basic structure, then you could spend more time on the breakdown drills and doing that. And that's kind of the phase we're getting ready to enter in. Today, like for example, when the guys come in on the JV end, we're going to be working on defending screens and getting better at that. So that's an area that I've identified that we just want to improve on. And so we know the basic idea of how we're going to do it. Now we just need to drill it a little bit finer and a little bit better. So because our resources are split with the varsity, sometimes it's a little bit it takes us a little bit longer to progress through the season on some of those.
How many kids do you usually keep on the JV? And I know a lot of kids won't get to play. I mean, but yet you still need them to round out your team and to help. You can't use freshmen for JV skills.
Well, it varies every year. This year we basically have 15 guys who are dressing on a regular basis, on a daily or whatever, a weekly basis for JV and varsity. And so that's, pretty much, that's 7 or 8 or whatever on each. So there's always a little bit of a swing, kind of in the middle on that. But, again, you go back to 12 and 12. It doesn't really, not very many schools really have it that way. So it's things are a little bit more streamlined. So pretty much everybody who's there is going to have a role in the game at some point. And so there's not a lot of just somebody who's not ever going to get into the game.
And because you have to manage quarters.
Yes.
It actually gives more kids an opportunity at the JV to play, right?
Oh yeah. So, right now we're pretty much, we pretty much have. There's a group. There's a unit of 7 that are in the main rotation for the varsity, and then the other 8 guys for the JV.
But you got to save them quarters, which gives those
sometimes, yes,
other kids And, well, I mean, there's no point for them to be sitting on the bench if they don't have a quarter to give, right?
Right. So sometimes, we will anticipate. Coach Everingham will tell me, maybe depending on what he sees as a need in the varsity game, somebody might, you get 5 quarters in a night, so you can play all 4, and then you can have one as a. So sometimes you might say like, well, this player's only going to play 2 quarters tonight at JV or 3 quarters tonight at JV because I want to have them available. So right now we haven't had to do a whole lot of that, but that's always sickness, injury.
Right.
We just went through a week of
flu,
quite a bit of illness.
Oh my gosh,
we ended up having everybody by last night, but we didn't know going up until Thursday who exactly was going to be there and in what state they were going to be in. So it's always fluid.
Now, in addition to your junior varsity team, you also then play a role in coaching at the varsity level too, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're engaged in the film review. You're engaged in different things at the varsity program too.
So Coach Everingham and Coach O'Connell pretty much lead that up, but then I'll be brought in to assist or.
I mean, you got to be available. It's kind of like the JV players have a quarter to give. You got to have a quarter to give too.
At least.
So a lot of times they'll meet, and then I since I teach at the middle school, sometimes when I come in, they'll be, hey, what do you think of this? And they'll have me look at something. And I guess one of my roles is to sort of be a fresh set of eyes on a situation. So they do the lion's share of that, and then I'll kind of come in and help out where I'm asked to.
And as the guy teaching at the middle school,
yes,
your job is to walk the hall.
Yep.
Your job is to make sure who's on the ball team stays on the ball team.
So so I teaching 8th grade, I get to interact with the players, the basketball players that are at the middle school level. Some, especially the ones that I have in class or whatever. And it's fun to chit chat with them a little bit and so forth.
Coach, tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you get involved in this and being a coach at this level? I never made it to the JV level.
Well,
as a player or as a coach?
Well, either one.
I see. Okay.
I kept my bench warm a lot.
Just checking.
Well, it's kind of funny because so my first year of teaching, I was in Warsaw. So I started off teaching in Warsaw.
Excuse you, Bill.
And we're having some type of a meeting, like a district-wide faculty meeting or something. And Coach Ogle, who was the JV coach at the time, he remembered me as a player at Wawasee, and he just came up and he goes, "Hey, have you ever thought about coaching?" And if you've had any chances to talk with Coach Ogle, he has an interesting way sometimes in which he'll bring up a discussion point or whatever, and I was like, so it's just kind of out of the blue, and I was like, well, maybe I hadn't really, I was young, I hadn't really thought too much of it at the time, and he just looks at me and he goes, "I think you do a good job. You should do it." And he turns around and walks away.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay. Well, then there happened to be an assistant freshman position open, and so I got, that's how I got started. And so I've spent most of my career, the vast majority of my career, coaching grades 7, 8, and 9, and so that's sort of where, sort of where I've been.
How is coaching? I know when I started out, I always thought, well, I want to be a varsity coach in India somewhere. And then I thought, oh, no.
And then you tried it and you said,
I never. Once I started, I thought, oh, man, this is all the conflict and the tension. And you got everybody. How do you make that decision? What's your.
Coaching, being a varsity coach is different than being any other level.
Yes.
Any other level
you and I
of
know
coaching.
That.
So there's it's you have to almost be like able to, I don't know what the right analogy would be, like manage a business or whatever. I mean, you have to be able to be multifaceted. Whereas if you're just the freshman coach or, or just the 8th grade coach,
that's what I liked about it.
You can just focus on your little unit, and so forth. So, I don't have a desire to to be a varsity coach at any time.
Yeah, you and I both.
Well, Coach Hoffert, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate your joining us here on Coach's Corner. Want to remind everybody that we've got men's basketball coming up here very shortly. We've got Columbia City. They'll be here Tuesday at the Hardwood TP. Then Wednesday, we'll take on Central Noble. Again, that's here at the Hardwood TP. And then a week.
Central Noble is boys and girls.
Oh, that's right. Central Noble is boy-girl doubleheader. It's very popular in the Northeast corner, and something that's kind of new to the Wabasee schedule, but very popular in the Northeast Corner Conference. And then Wednesday, the 29th, we have the Varsity Holiday Tourney. Actually, 4 games there. We'll play the first game at 10, and then which game we play in the evening depends on whether we win the first game. Coach Szynal, I know you've got a very busy schedule coming up yourself.
Well, I have. One of the big things I want to talk about for 1 minute is today is my wife's anniversary, and we have been married for 45 years. And I can remember I was coaching at Marshall High School, and we were teaching there, and she was walking the halls. And some of the people that were there at the high school level with me said, "Hey, you ought to ask her out." And so I did, and that was over 45 years ago. So, hey, Steph, thanks a lot for being so patient, and thanks for all those 45 years.
Well, very good. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. One more time, remind you, men's basketball coming up Tuesday night right here at the Hardwood TP. We've got a big set of home games here where we will take on the Golden Eagles of Columbia City. Very physical basketball team. They're going to bring that brand in here, and we could really use you in the stands. That's Tuesday night. Then if you missed that one, Wednesday, you got the opportunity to come see one of the top programs in the state right now with Central Noble. And the Cougars bring that small school basketball in here. They're very, very good. You'll see great basketball if you come join us this week. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 The Mix and 937themix.com, WRWTLP, Syracuse.